Now let us move to the fourth stanza, where Pope describes the ideal daily life of a person who lives in solitude. The stanza begins with the line, "Sound sleep by night, study and ease." The phrase, "sound sleep," suggests deep, peaceful, and undisturbed rest at night. This indicates that the person has no worries or anxieties troubling the mind. After restful sleep, the person spends the day in a balance between study and ease. Here, study represents intellectual activity and learning, while ease refers to relaxation and comfort. Pope is emphasizing that life should not be entirely focused on work or entirely on rest, but should maintain a balance between the two. In the next line, "Together mixed, sweet recreation," Pope continues this idea of balance. Together mixed means that work and relaxation are not separated strictly but are blended harmoniously. Sweet recreation refers to enjoyable activities that refresh the mind and body. These are simple pleasures, not excessive or luxurious, but enough to maintain happiness. The third line, "and innocence, which most does please," introduces an important moral dimension. Innocence here means purity of heart, freedom from guilt, and a life without moral corruption. Pope suggests that true pleasure comes not from material things, but from a clear and innocent conscience. Finally, the line, "with meditation," adds a deeper, reflective element. Meditation here means thoughtful reflection, self-awareness, and inner contemplation. It suggests a quiet, inward life where a person understands themselves and remains mentally peaceful. If we look at the stanza as a whole, Pope presents an ideal lifestyle that is perfectly balanced, physically, mentally, and morally. There is a harmony between work and rest, enjoyment and discipline, action and reflection. The key idea is that the ideal life is a balanced life, supported by innocence and inner reflection, which together lead to true and lasting happiness. Now let us move to the fifth and final stanza, where Pope presents his personal wish and concludes the poem. The stanza begins with the line, "Thus let me live, unseen, unknown." Here, the poet directly expresses his desire to live a life away from public attention. The words, "unseen," and "unknown," are very important. They show that he does not want fame, recognition, or social importance. Instead, he prefers a quiet and private life, free from the pressures of society. In the next line, "Thus unlamented let me die," Pope extends this idea to death as well. He wishes to die without attracting attention or causing public mourning. This does not mean that his life is meaningless, but rather that he values peace and simplicity over public display or emotional drama. The third line, "Steal from the world," suggests leaving life quietly and gently, almost unnoticed. The word, "steal," here implies a silent departure, without disturbance or noise. It reflects the idea of a calm and natural end to life. Finally, in the line, "And not a stone tell where I lie," Pope expresses his desire to have no tombstone or monument after his death. A stone represents a grave marker that keeps a person's memory alive. By rejecting this, Pope is rejecting the idea of legacy, fame, and remembrance. If we look at the stanza as a whole, it presents a powerful and philosophical idea. The poet believes that true peace comes not only from a simple life, but also from freedom from fame, recognition, and social identity. The key idea is that the highest form of happiness and peace lies in living and dying quietly, without attachment to fame or the need to be remembered. Now let us look at the literary devices used in the poem, which play a very important role in enhancing its meaning and beauty. First, we have alliteration, which is the repetition of initial consonant sounds, as seen in the phrase, "slide soft away." This creates a smooth and musical quality, reinforcing the calm and gentle movement of time. Next is assonance, the repetition of vowel sounds, as in, native air. This adds harmony and softness to the lines. Similarly, consonance, the repetition of consonant sounds, appears in phrases like, sound sleep, contributing to the peaceful tone of the poem. Imagery is widely used throughout the poem, especially in descriptions like fields and trees. These create clear and vivid pictures of rural life in the reader's mind. Closely related to this is pastoral imagery, where elements like herds, flocks, and fields idealize the simplicity of countryside living. Anaphora, or repetition at the beginning of phrases, is seen in the repeated use of whose. This emphasizes the idea of self-sufficiency. Repetition and parallelism together create a sense of balance and order, which reflects the neoclassical style of the poem. Personification is used when time is described as sliding soft away, giving it a human quality and making the passage of time feel gentle. Metaphor is also present, especially in the comparison of life to a smooth flow of time. Symbolism plays a key role, particularly in the word stone, which represents fame or a grave marker. By rejecting the stone, the poet rejects the idea of legacy and recognition. We also see hyperbaton, or inversion of normal word order, in lines like blessed. Who can, which adds emphasis. Enjambment allows thoughts to flow across lines, while end-stopped lines provide clarity and control. The rhyme scheme of ABAB and the use of iambic tetrameter create a smooth, musical rhythm. The tone of the poem is calm and reflective, and the mood it creates is serene and peaceful. Irony is present when we consider that Pope, who rejects fame in the poem, later became a very famous poet. Paradox appears in the idea that being bound by limited desires actually leads to freedom and happiness. Understatement is used in phrases like a few acres, which highlights simplicity. Didacticism shows that the poem teaches a moral lesson about how to live. Euphony, or pleasant sound, runs throughout the poem, enhancing its soothing effect. Caesura, or pauses within lines, such as after, blessed, adds emphasis and rhythm. Climax can be seen in the progression from life to death across the poem. Antithesis, like the contrast between day and night, shows balance. Finally, synecdoche is used where acres represent an entire way of life, and metonymy appears where stone stands for a grave or memory. Overall, these literary devices work together to create a poem that is not only simple in language but also rich in meaning, reinforcing its central idea of peaceful and self-sufficient living. Now let us move to the major themes of the poem, which help us understand its deeper meaning. The first theme is the simplicity of life. Pope clearly rejects luxury, wealth, and ambition. He suggests that the more desires a person has, the more restless and unhappy they become. In contrast, a simple life with limited needs brings true happiness and stability. The second theme is self-sufficiency. Throughout the poem, we see that nature provides everything the ideal man needs, including food, clothing, shelter, and comfort. This shows that a person does not need to depend on society, markets, or external systems. Living independently and in harmony with nature leads to a more peaceful life. The third theme is peace and contentment. Pope emphasizes both physical and mental well-being. A healthy body and a calm mind are essential for happiness. The absence of stress, anxiety, and conflict allows a person to enjoy life fully and peacefully. The fourth theme is escape from society. Although Pope does not directly criticize urban life, he indirectly presents it as artificial, stressful, and corrupt. By contrast, rural life is shown as natural, pure, and peaceful. The poem encourages withdrawal from social pressures and competition. The final theme is time and mortality. Pope presents time as something that passes gently when life is peaceful. There is no fear or anxiety about growing older. Similarly, death is shown as quiet and natural, without drama or desire for remembrance. So, all these themes together convey a single powerful message. True happiness lies in a simple, self-sufficient life, lived in peace and free from the pressures of society. Now let us examine the language and style of the poem, which play a crucial role in conveying its meaning. First, we notice the simplicity of language. Pope uses clear and straightforward diction, without heavy ornamentation or complex vocabulary. This simplicity is not accidental. It directly reflects the central theme of the poem, which is a simple and peaceful life. The language itself mirrors the life the poet is describing. Next, we observe the musicality of the poem. The rhythm is smooth and flowing, supported by soft consonant sounds and balanced phrasing. This creates a gentle and soothing effect for the reader. The musical quality of the lines reinforces the calm and peaceful mood that runs throughout the poem. Another important feature is the repetition pattern, especially the repeated use of the word whose in the second stanza. This repetition creates a sense of stability and order. It also adds to the rhythmic flow of the poem and emphasizes the idea of self-sufficiency, as each line builds upon the previous one in a structured way. Overall, the language and style of the poem are carefully designed to be simple, smooth, and balanced, perfectly supporting the poem's message of harmony, peace, and contentment. Now let us understand the symbolism used in the poem, which adds deeper meaning to simple images. First, the word acres represents stability and a settled life. It is not just land, but a symbol of security, inheritance, and a rooted existence. It shows a life that is limited in space but rich in contentment. Next, milk and bread symbolize basic human needs. They represent nourishment and survival. Pope uses these simple elements to show that happiness does not require luxury, only the fulfillment of essential needs. The image of trees stands for shelter and protection. In the poem, trees provide shade in summer and fire in winter. This shows how nature takes care of human life throughout all seasons, symbolizing reliability and support. Time, in the poem, symbolizes the flow of life. When Pope describes time as passing smoothly, he suggests that a peaceful life leads to a gentle and stress-free experience of time. Sleep represents peace and rest. It is not just physical sleep, but a symbol of a calm and undisturbed mind, free from anxiety and worry. Finally, the word stone symbolizes fame, legacy, and remembrance. A stone usually refers to a tombstone that marks a person's existence after death. By rejecting the stone, the poet rejects the desire for fame and recognition, emphasizing his wish for a quiet and unnoticed life. Overall, these symbols transform simple elements of daily life into powerful ideas about stability, simplicity, peace, and the rejection of worldly ambition. Now let us look at the critical interpretations of the poem, which help us understand its meaning from different perspectives. First, we have the moralistic reading. From this point of view, the poem teaches a clear moral lesson. It encourages ethical simplicity and contentment. Pope suggests that a good life is not based on wealth or ambition, but on living with limited desires and maintaining inner peace. Next is the political reading. Although the poem does not directly mention politics, it can be seen as an indirect criticism of the urban elite and the social hierarchy of Pope's time. By praising a simple rural life, the poem quietly questions the values of a society that is driven by power, status, and inequality. The third interpretation is the psychological reading. Here, the focus is on the poet's inner feelings. The poem reflects a strong desire for withdrawal from the pressures of life. It also suggests a fear of suffering, stress, and conflict. Solitude becomes a way for the poet to protect himself and achieve mental peace. Finally, we have the eco-critical reading, which is a modern perspective. From this angle, the poem presents nature as a self-sustaining and harmonious system. It suggests that human beings should live in balance with nature, using only what is necessary and avoiding excess. So, through these different interpretations, we can see that the poem is not just simple in meaning, but rich and multi-layered in its ideas. Now let us understand the philosophical framework of the poem, which forms the foundation of its ideas. First, we have Epicurean philosophy. According to this philosophy, true happiness comes from the absence of pain and the enjoyment of simple pleasures. It advises people to avoid ambition, luxury, and public life, as these often lead to stress and dissatisfaction. In the poem, the ideal man reflects this Epicurean idea. He lives a simple, peaceful life with limited desires, and finds happiness in what he already has. Next is Stoicism. This philosophy emphasizes emotional control, acceptance of fate, and inner peace. A Stoic person does not get disturbed by external circumstances. In the poem, We can see this in the calm and undisturbed life of the ideal man, who remains peaceful regardless of time or situation. The third idea is the Aristotelian golden mean. This concept suggests that a good life lies in balance, avoiding both excess and deficiency. Pope expresses this clearly in the phrase, study and ease, where intellectual effort and relaxation are perfectly balanced. Finally, we see the influence of the pastoral tradition, which comes from classical poets. This tradition presents rural life as pure, simple, and morally superior, while city life is often shown as corrupt and artificial. In the poem, nature provides everything, and rural life becomes the ideal setting for happiness. So, the poem brings together these different philosophical ideas to present a complete vision of a balanced, peaceful, and self-sufficient life. Now let us conclude our discussion of the poem. Ode on Solitude presents a deeply philosophical vision of life that is rooted in simplicity, self-sufficiency, and inner peace. Pope combines the ideas of Epicurean philosophy, which values simple pleasures and freedom from pain, with the order and clarity of neoclassical ideals, while also anticipating the emotional depth and love of nature that we later see in Romantic poetry. Through this poem, Pope creates an ideal model of human existence, where a person chooses contentment over ambition and prefers anonymity over fame. The poem teaches us that true happiness does not depend on external success, but on inner balance, limited desires, and a peaceful mind. At the same time, we should also remember that this vision is idealistic. It may not fully reflect real life, but it offers a powerful and meaningful perspective on what it means to live a fulfilled life. Thank you for listening. If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more detailed literary analysis and exam-oriented content.